The sun was setting over the city hospital. Vendors packed up, nurses hurried home, and tired mothers clutched sick babies in long queues. But one girl stood still, her eyes fixed on a man who had just collapsed by the gate. His clothes were soaked with blood, his breath shallow, his eyes pleading. If you're just tuning in, please subscribe to African Tales by Victo, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us where you're watching from. This story will stay in your heart forever. Her name was Aisha, just 19, barefoot, holding a nylon bag with the last loaf of bread she could afford. She didn't know him. No one else moved. People stared, whispered, walked away. But Aisha dropped everything and rushed to him. "Please help," she cried, dragging him toward the emergency ward. "He's dying." The nurse glanced up. No deposit, no treatment. Aisha opened her bag. All she had left was Nigerian Naira 4,000. It was her food and transport money for the week. She didn't hesitate. "Take it. Please. Just save him." They took the cash and wheeled him inside. Aisha sat on the floor, exhausted, hungry and scared. She had no idea who the man was. No name. No thanks. No reward. But she had one thing left, her here. What Aisha didn't know was that this moment had just changed her life forever. That night, Aisha sat on the hospital bench with nothing but an empty purse and an aching heart. The stranger she had saved was still unconscious. Machines beeped. Nurses rushed in and out. No one told her anything. She hadn't eaten all day. Her slippers were torn. And now her last Naira was gone. But Aisha didn't regret it. "If it were Papa or Mama lying there," she whispered, "I'd pray someone would help too." The nurse walked past. Aisha stood up. "Please, how is he?" "He's stable, for now," she replied without looking. "Family should come settle the bill." Aisha blinked. "I don't know him. I just helped him." The nurse frowned. "Then why are you still here?" Aisha had no answer. Maybe she just wanted to know he'd live. Maybe she was hoping he'd open his eyes and say thank you. But hours passed. He didn't wake up. By midnight, security tapped her shoulder. "You can't sleep here." Aisha nodded. She picked up her nylon bag, walked into the night, and disappeared into the city. Just another face in the crowd. But inside that ward, the stranger she'd saved stirred for the first time, and whispered, "Water." Morning light slipped through the hospital blinds. The man in the bed slowly opened his eyes. Tubes ran from his arm. His body ached. His vision blurred. But he was alive. Doctors gathered quickly. "Sir, you're lucky. You were bleeding out. You'd have died at the gate if not for a girl." He frowned. "A girl?" "Yes. She paid your deposit. Sat here for hours. Then disappeared." He tried to sit up. "Who was she?" "No name. She didn't know you. She just helped." The man closed his eyes, stunned. In his world, kindness always had a price. But this girl had nothing, and still gave everything. He touched his bandaged side. "Find her." "Sir?" "Find her." The doctors exchanged glances. The man's voice was weak, but his presence filled the room with quiet power. This wasn't an ordinary man. His name was Tunde Ikenna, a silent billionaire, hidden from the spotlight, feared in business circles, loved by none. No wife, no family, only wealth. And yet, a girl who had nothing had saved him. He stared at the 4 drip beside him. "She gave me her last Naira," he whispered. And just like that, a mission began, to find the nameless girl who had changed everything. The city was already awake when Aisha found herself back on the street, empty stomach growling louder than the traffic. She hadn't eaten in almost 24 hours. Her feet burned. Her head spun. But she kept walking. There was no one to call. Her phone was off. She had no home in Lagos, just a shared mattress in a wooden shack behind a mechanic workshop. Even that space, she couldn't afford this week. She stood beside a buka, inhaling the smell of jollof rice and fried plantain. Her mouth watered, but her pocket held nothing but lint. She turned away, ashamed. At a nearby junction, she saw a woman struggling to push her wheelbarrow. Without a word, Aisha rushed over and helped her. The woman looked surprised. "You fit push and reach market?" "Yes, ma," Aisha replied, voice dry. After 30 sweaty minutes in the sun, the woman gave her 300 Nigerian Nairas and a sachet of pure water. Aisha sat under a tree, tore bread from a roadside stall in half, and whispered a prayer. She didn't know that miles away, the man she saved had sent his assistant across every hospital record and street CCTV in Lagos, searching for her. Back in the private hospital, Tunde sat upright, eyes sharp, frustration growing. "Still nothing?" he asked his assistant, Bode, who stood nervously at the door. Bode shook his head. No footage at the gate. No ID. The nurses said she wore plain clothes, no address. She just vanished, sir. Tund clenched his jaw. This girl, this ghost, had saved him. And now she was nowhere to be found. She gave me her last Naira, he muttered again. She didn't wait for thanks. Or reward. It gnawed at him. In his world of cold contracts and fake smiles, no one gave anything without reason. But this girl, she gave from emptiness. Tund swung his legs over the bed. I'm leaving. But sir, the doctors said. Get the car. By afternoon, Tund stood at the exact spot where he had collapsed. The hospital gate. He looked around. Nothing but a noisy road, impatient patients, and tired vendors. He walked to the nearest woman frying puff-puff. Do you know a girl named Aisha? About 19. Skinny. Brown scarf. Kind eyes. The woman frowned. Aisha? That name fit many girls for Lagos, Ogre. Tund turned away, but not before whispering to himself. I'll search every corner if I have to. Behind a noisy mechanic workshop in Mushin, Aisha lay on a worn mattress beside two other girls. The room smelled of fuel and sweat. The walls were cracked. Mosquitoes buzzed endlessly. But to Aisha, it was still shelter. She clutched her bag tightly. Inside, one wrapper, a Bible, and a paper photo of her late parents. That was all she had left of her old life. One of the girls, Tolu, leaned over. You look tired. You worked today. Aisha nodded. Carried market load. Got 300 Nigerian Nairas. Tolu scoffed. You're too soft, Aisha. Life no day pity anybody. You day help stranger with your last money. Where'd you gain? Aisha gave a weak smile. I gain peace. But deep inside, a storm brewed. Was it foolish to be kind? Was her mother wrong to teach her to give, even in lack? That night, while the city hummed outside, Aisha stared at the ceiling and prayed. God, if you see me, remember me. At that very moment, in a high-rise apartment across town, Tund looked out over the city skyline, clutching the hospital receipt Aisha had signed. One name was scribbled faintly. Aisha M. Finally, he had something. Tund sat alone in his penthouse, staring at the crumpled hospital receipt. One thing stood out, the name. Aisha M. He whispered it to himself, over and over, like a prayer. Aisha M. Who are you? His assistant, Bode, entered quietly. We ran the name through several hospital systems, schools, and ID databases. Nothing solid. No full surname, no photo. Tund frowned. Then find every girl named Aisha M in Lagos. Every one. Bode swallowed. That could take weeks, sir. Then start now. Tund wasn't used to waiting. He was used to signing a check and watching the world bend. But this was different. She had risked everything. Not for money, not for fame, but because she believed in goodness. And for once, Tund felt small in the face of that kind of power. He turned to Bode. Check street markets. Ask around. Find her. Meanwhile, across town, Aisha stood behind a roasted corn cellar, fanning hot coals just to earn a night's dinner. Sweat dripped from her brow, but her heart remained steady. She didn't know someone was looking for her, someone whose life had been changed forever by her one act of kindness. And he was getting closer. It was a hot Thursday afternoon when Bode arrived at the Oyingbo market, holding nothing but a faded screenshot of the hospital receipt. Aisha M. He approached vendors one by one. Please, do you know this girl? Slim, brown skin, maybe wears scarf, kind eyes. Most shook their heads. Some laughed. Now Lagos be this, Ogre. Everybody resemble everybody. But one elderly tomato seller paused. Aisha M., she repeated. That name. A girl like that day helped me push my wheelbarrow sometimes. Quiet girl. Soft voice. Bode's eyes lit up. Where is she now? The woman squinted. She stay for mechanic backyard for Mushin. But he don't way I see her. Without wasting a second, Bode sped off, heart pounding. For the first time, they had a location. Across the city, Aisha helped sweep a church compound. She had earned 500 Nigerian Nairas for the day, just enough for dinner and tomorrow's transport. Life was hard, but her faith was harder. That night, she hummed softly, unaware of the storm brewing, because the man she once saved had just found her trail. And for Aisha, the next 24 hours would flip her entire world upside down. The next morning, Aisha woke up to chaos. Children screamed outside. The mechanic next door shouted over a customer. Pots clanged in the compound. Just another noisy Lagos morning. She yawned, tied her scarf, and stepped out with a broom. Today, she planned to return to the market, maybe find another wheelbarrow to push. Anything to survive. But just as she swept the dusty ground, she heard it. Knock. 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 It came from the front gate. "Tolu, check that," someone shouted. Tolu opened the rusted gate, only to find a black SUV parked outside. A tall man in a clean white kaftan stepped down. "Bode." He held up a photo. "Please. I'm looking for this girl. Aisha M." Tolu narrowed her eyes. "Who be you? Why you dey find her?" "I just want to help. She saved a life." Before she could reply, Aisha stepped forward, broom still in hand. Her eyes met his. Silence. Bode's face softened. "You're Aisha?" She hesitated. "Yes. Who are you?" "My boss wants to see you." "Your boss?" He smiled. "The man you saved." Aisha's broom fell from her hand, because she realized her past kindness was finally coming back. Aisha sat stiffly in the back seat of the SUV as it sped through the city. She clutched her faded bag tightly, heart racing. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. Bode turned, smiling gently. "To meet someone whose life you changed." Aisha swallowed hard. "But I don't understand. I don't even know who he is." "You will," Bode said. "He hasn't stopped searching for you." Soon, the SUV turned into a quiet, tree-lined street. The noise of Lagos vanished behind them. Tall white walls appeared, guarded gates opening slowly. Aisha's eyes widened. "This place is a mansion." "Yes. His home." They pulled into a driveway so clean it sparkled. The door opened, and there he stood. Tundai Kenna, clean-shaven, dark native wear, a quiet storm in his eyes. Not the frail man from the hospital, but strong, composed, powerful. Aisha stepped out, confused. I don't understand." "You're the man you saved," he finished softly. "You gave me your last Naira." Aisha looked down, ashamed. "It was nothing." "No," he said, stepping closer. "It was everything." Then he did something no one expected. He knelt and whispered, "Thank you, Aisha." The girl who had nothing was now standing in front of everything. Inside the mansion, Aisha sat like a stranger in another world. The dining room was bigger than the entire compound she lived in. Marble floors, glittering chandeliers, a long polished table where she now sat, and couldn't touch anything. Tund entered with quiet grace. He no longer looked like a man clinging to life. He looked like a king who had rediscovered purpose. "You didn't have to bring me here," Aisha whispered. "I had to," he replied, pouring her a glass of juice. "Because that day, you gave me more than money. You gave me a reason to live." She blinked fast. "I thought I'd never see you again." Tund smiled. "I almost didn't. I searched Lagos like a madman. You left no trail. Just your name and your kindness." Silence hung between them. Then, she asked the question that had weighed on her heart. "Why are you doing this?" He looked at her with deep intensity. "Because you gave me something I never thought I deserved. Unconditional love from a stranger." Then he stood. "Stay as long as you want. Eat. Rest. Heal. From today, you're not alone anymore." Aisha's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in years, she felt safe. That night, Aisha lay in a guest room fit for a queen. Silk sheets, soft pillows, air conditioning, a private bathroom with lights that turned on by motion. She had never seen anything like it. Her hands trembled as she touched the bedsheet. Was this all real? She opened her small bag and took out her parents' photo, whispering, "Mama, Papa, look at me. I'm sleeping in a palace." Downstairs, Tund watched her room through a security monitor. Not to spy, but to protect. He'd seen the world, traveled to New York, Dubai, London. But something about this young woman touched a part of him no one ever had. She didn't ask for help. She didn't wait for recognition. She just gave. The next morning, Aisha woke to the smell of breakfast. Plantain, eggs, pap, her favorite. It was already served for her. "Good morning," Tund said as she walked in shyly. "You made all this?" she asked. He laughed. "No, but I made sure the chef knew what you like." She chuckled. For the first time in months, she smiled, a real smile. And deep inside, Tund knew. He hadn't just found the girl who saved him. He might have found the woman who would change him. Aisha stood frozen in front of the mirror, dressed in a flowing Ankara gown tailored just for her. It hugged her small frame, like it was made of heaven itself. Her hands trembled as she touched the soft fabric. "I can't wear this," she whispered. "It's too much." Behind her, a kind female staff smiled. Oga Tund said, "Let her see how royalty looks when it wears humility." Aisha's eyes watered. She hadn't worn anything new in years. Only hand-me-downs from street girls and markets. But now, she looked like a senator's daughter. Downstairs, Tund waited in a simple kaftan. When she walked down the staircase, he stood speechless. Her presence silenced the entire living room. You look stunning, he finally said. She blushed. I still feel like that girl from the mechanic's backyard. He stepped forward. And I still feel like that man on the hospital floor, broken, hopeless, until you picked me up. They sat in the garden afterward, sipping zobo as the sun set. No pressure, no promises, just peace. But something unspoken passed between them. A warmth, a softness, a seed, and it was already growing into something more. The garden was quiet, lit only by soft lanterns. The air smelled of hibiscus and fresh rain. Aisha sat on a swing, gently rocking, her wrapper tied loosely around her shoulders. Tund stood a few feet away, nervous, something he hadn't felt in years. I used to think wealth could buy anything, he said, staring at the night sky. But that day on the hospital floor, it was your 3,500 Nigerian Nairas that bought me something money never could. Aisha turned slowly. I didn't do it for a reward. I know, he replied. That's what makes it powerful. Silence. Then he walked closer. I've had women chase me for my name, my cars, my inheritance. But none of them saw me the way you did. A weak man dying invisible. She looked down, voice soft. You weren't invisible. You were in pain. Tund knelt before her again, like he did the day they met. I don't know what the future holds, Aisha. But if you let me, I want to walk through it with you. Her heart pounded. He reached for her hand, trembling slightly. And in that quiet garden, under Lagos stars, a broken man found love in the arms of a forgotten girl. Tund didn't plan for it to go public. But when a staff member leaked a photo of Aisha in the mansion garden beside him, social media exploded. Who is this mystery girl? Is Tund Ikenna engaged to a commoner? From street girl to queen. What a story. By evening, hashtags trended. Hashtag Aisha the Angel and hashtag She Saved Him. News stations picked it up. Everyone wanted to know who the beautiful, humble girl beside Nigeria's most eligible billionaire was. Aisha sat in the living room, watching her own face on the TV. Eyes wide, voice shaking. I didn't ask for this. Tund turned off the screen. I know. I'll protect you. She stood scared. This is too much. What if your friends mock you? What if society doesn't accept me? He stepped closer. Let them talk. They don't know the girl who gave her last Naira to save a man's life. But I'm not like them, she whispered. I don't even own a second pair of shoes. Tund smiled gently. That's exactly why you're different. Then he took her hand and said calmly, You saved me from dying. Let me save you from hiding. And in that moment, their bond became unbreakable. Tund had made up his mind. He didn't just want to reward Aisha. He wanted to honor her, publicly, fully, eternally. The following weekend, he organized a private dinner on a rooftop overlooking the Lagos skyline. Candles flickered. Jazz played in the background. Aisha arrived in a simple peach gown. Elegant, modest, perfect. As the night air danced through her scarf, she looked at him and smiled nervously. Why are you looking at me like that? He chuckled. Because tonight is not just a dinner. He stood slowly, then knelt. The entire rooftop staff paused. From his pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring. Not just any ring, but one carved with her name. Aisha, he said, voice firm but trembling. You changed my life with 3,500 Nigerian Nairas. I want to give you the rest of mine in return. Tears welled in her eyes. But she hesitated. Not out of doubt, but fear. Fear of the new world, the noise, the attention. Then she looked into his eyes, kind, honest, unwavering. She whispered, yes. And just like that, the girl who had nothing had just said yes to everything. The wedding wasn't loud. It wasn't lavish. But it was beautiful. Aisha wore a white lace gown, her hair wrapped in a soft gelly, eyes glistening with tears of joy. Tund stood tall in a cream-colored agbada, his hand trembling slightly as he held hers. The venue? A simple garden. Guests, close friends, orphanage children, and hospital staff. The people who truly mattered. When the officiant said, You may now kiss the bride, Tund leaned in slowly, tenderly. Aisha closed her eyes, heart pounding with disbelief. The girl who once pushed wheelbarrows was now kissed by the man she once saved, in front of the whole world. Later, during the reception, a reporter tried to interview her. What changed your life the most? Aisha smiled gently. I didn't do anything special. I just chose kindness, even when I had nothing left. That night, As they stood on the balcony of their honeymoon suite, Tund wrapped his arms around her. "Do you regret giving your last Naira?" She laughed softly. "That last Naira gave me you." And in the silence that followed, they both knew. Sometimes, love doesn't begin with a proposal or a promise. It begins with one small act of selfless goodness. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this message. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and what act of kindness inspired you today.